and welcome to another episode of Tesseract Talks, the place where we put the spotlight on tech trends, startups, and VCs. I'm your host, Marco, the founder and CEO of Tesseract Analytics, and it is my pleasure today to have Khormaee as our guest. The founder and CEO of AegisAI native email security platform. Sai, welcome. How are you?
Well, thank you, Marco. Really appreciate you taking the time to have us on. I'm doing well, enjoying a nice sunny day in California.
Great. So maybe to start off, could you briefly introduce yourself and share your journey so far for the audience so we can get to know you better?
Of course. Well, just to give you my life story in a couple minutes in a nutshell, I really started off my career as a computer scientist. I studied at the University of Washington, hopped across the pond there, the little pond, which is Lake Washington, to go work at Microsoft. I built the large-scale ETL data systems at Microsoft, and then I did a little bit of field sales. So I've done a little bit of both at Microsoft. After Microsoft, I got really excited about building companies, and I spent the next decade or so kind of building companies, the first in commercial real estate, CIMLS.com, that's still running. I built another company called CAPTCHA that was a sales acceleration technology using very early versions of natural language processing that maybe seem trivial today, but were very cool and a lot of work, 10 years before. We sold that to Sugar CRM, so that became Sugar Hint and Sugar Intelligence. And then, AegisAI will be my kind of third major venture. And somewhere in the middle, I decided to go to Google and go help them build security businesses. And so that's kind of where I picked up my first love of security. I really got to understand how to put together kind of my love of building companies and building technology, or something that was just incredibly impactful in the world. I still remember, one of the first calls I had with the team there telling me about what safe browsing was. And this is a platform that now defends 5 billion users around the planet. So essentially every device any of the listeners have on their desktop, in their pocket, those are all defended from phishing and malware by safe browsing, almost certainly. To have that kind of impact while building really cool technology is just like something I fell in love with at Google. And I don't think that love has died, 10 years later.
Wow, what a journey so far. I know you worked on some amazing projects like reCAPTCHA, safe browsing, and web risk at Google. What mostly influenced your approach to building secure AI-driven products today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, really, it even comes back to that initial conversation. It's funny, I'd worked with someone named Gordon Sheffy at Lightspeed Ventures prior, and he eventually was one of the early leaders in the Google security business. And he was kind of pulled me in to kind of work with that team because he knew I loved building stuff. And he knew I was like a pretty technical business person. So I liked dealing with these very deep areas. And he connected me with the current leader at the time there, Panos Mavromatis, who was just the person who really was one of the early creators of safe browsing. He's been a pioneer in the space for 20 plus years, just incredible folks. And I really got to see security at scale. And I'd never really seen it before, because if you work in a typical security environment or any corporate environment, you see security within your employee base at most, maybe a little bit outside. So it's 10,000, 20,000, maybe 100,000 people, right? But the way Google thinks about, and the way, these leaders think about the technology is planet scale. So how do I protect the entire internet from phishing? How do I protect the entire internet from fraud? And that is a really unique approach. And it's a very googly and Google-centric approach, because everything Google does is at internet scale. And when you start to think about the problem at internet scale, you start to think about it less from configuration and rules and more from autonomous AI systems. Because if you think about the variety of experiences that 5-6 billion people on the planet have, they're so diverse and so ever-changing. Even with the resources of Google, you're never going to catch up. You're always going to have something else there. And so Google relies on AI to get there. And that goes, by the way, all the way back to kind of the foundational moment of kind of Google versus Yahoo, right? If you remember, Yahoo was a catalog maintained by humans. Google was a kind of a directory managed by AI. And when the internet was small, the human managed catalog worked really well. When it got very large, it didn't work as well. And the AI algorithms worked really well. I think Google has taken that lesson and made it the through line for the entire business. All of their businesses are based on that fact. Let's take something that when we scale it to planetary scale, it works way better than at a tiny scale. And let's only do those things at planetary scale. So for me, that was the huge eye-opening moment to really see that in action. It was just such a gift that I got to see that, because I think otherwise it's almost difficult for the human mind to imagine what it looks like to serve the entire planet all at once. And then you start thinking about, how do I build systems? How do I use AI? How do I use technology to really create an offering at that scale with that effectiveness.
What would you say is the core mission of your current company, and what maybe sets your approach apart in a very crowded cybersecurity landscape? Could you also maybe share a recent example of where your technology made a clear impact in improving security outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of start with the mission. So our mission is really to defend users. Like the number one thing I want is for people on the internet to be safe. And for what's worth, that mission hasn't changed that much across all things I've done over the last 10 years. Like that is a shared mission, and for better or for worse, it hasn't been solved. And then if we look at AegisAI, we really focus down on the problem of email security. And even within email security, I think everyone listening has gotten a phishing email or spam, maybe today, but if not, certainly in the last couple of weeks. It is a universal problem. Mark, I can see you're smiling. Like it is just
Oh yeah,
a
I'm getting almost on a daily basis.
there you go. We got to help you with that too. So it's just a universal problem that's unsolved. And the reason it's unsolved is the email vector, unlike many other parts of security, is so complex. It looks like a simple thing, one email, but an email has content, it's got a header, it's got links, it's got attachments, it's got context on the to and the from. It's such a multifaceted, complex problem that is very difficult to analyze without LLM. So this LLM technology is really a new gift for us to look at all of the different aspects and dimensions of an email to categorize if it's malicious or if it's benign or who it's from or what the threat is. And it was very difficult with these more linear machine learning tactics and techniques we had before. And so that's really one of the greatest reasons we started Aegis today is, look, we've all in our team at Aegis largely come from Google working on this problem. We all worked together at Google for the last 6 to 10 years on this problem, using ML, using the prior technology we had in the world. And really now we've got a new opportunity to rebuild these systems without a bunch of ML rules, without a bunch of detection rules that are manually curated and just always 1 or 2 steps behind the adversaries. And we can build agents that stay 1 to 2 steps ahead of the adversaries at scale. So that's the biggest way we stand out. And we think this is even more important because we see adversaries are using AI-powered attacks. So in the last couple of years, we've seen AI attacks increase in volume by 4,000%. We've seen the specificity increase as well, where now they're really becoming more bespoke, and we see spear phishing at scale. We see them really target who you are, who your business is, situations. Like they're very, very well crafted. Things we typically would see out of a nation state are now commonplace with criminals across the internet and all sizes of companies. And so to combat that threat, we really need to fight AI with AI. And so we've created these AI systems to kind of accomplish that. And then maybe one example is we have a customer called Mesh, and they're in the crypto payment space, and they've become incredibly successful. We think they're going to be the next, way we transact stable coins on the internet. But with that, they become a massive target. With success comes targeting. Unfortunately, good for them on their business, bad for them on the targeting. And we're able to help them by deploying our AI native systems to their services and really cut that down by 99.9%. So essentially, we've largely shut down all the phishing this organization sees with almost no additional effort and configuration from their part. And so their CTO and their security staff has always been kind of amazed and really delighted to work with us because we're able to use this modern technology to fight the modern threat they face, shut it down, and do so without asking them to constantly be in there reconfiguring these security tools, which is kind of the typical pattern for a lot of things you install in the security world. So they love this fire and forget, this kind of automatic AI-powered protective layer that can sit over their business and let them focus on their business, let them focus on delivering amazing, secure crypto transactions and not become experts in email security. Let us, and our AIs do that.
My next question, although you've touched upon it already, but from your perspective, how is AI fundamentally reshaping cybersecurity today? And what new risks or adversarial challenges are you keeping a close eye on? Also, where do you see the biggest opportunity for AI to strengthen security over the next few years?
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Well, let me start by kind of talking through where I see AI presenting the greatest present threat. And it really is, think about all the tactics and techniques that were used by nation state actors or highly sophisticated actors that were the purview of them because they were difficult, they were time consuming, although effective. Well, guess what? AI has removed the first 2 parts of those. So those things that are effective, again, bespoke attacks, creating fake assets, using compromised infrastructure, are now trivially easy. And so if you think about that whole class of attacks, They are now open to the entire world, and everyone will use them all the time. You essentially put the highly sophisticated weaponry that was only for very advanced state actors in the hands of everyone. If, as security folks, I think the biggest thing we need to get ready for is a wave of attacks that are as sophisticated as the most sophisticated attacks we see today every day. I think that's the number one thing that we're going to see in the future, and that we just got to get ready for. I think people are not yet at all ready for that, and it's going to come at the speed of AI, meaning it's going to be prevalent in the next year or two. So we don't have a long cycle. We've got a very short cycle to be ready for that. Then if we think about what will happen next is assuming we all as defenders respond well to that AI set of attacks, the adversaries will then understand our AI defenses and start to mutate around that. We already see this at Aegis, where people are designing specific attacks to evade the machine learning they know exists. And they'll start to do the same thing with the LLM-based models that we have. And so we'll then start this cat and mouse game of understanding how we can detect and stop these attacks that are designed to evade specific AI defenses. So I think the first 2 years is the basic attacks. The second 2 years will be these like AI-powered attacks. I think we'll just rotate together in that world for a long time. And just one thing, if you think about this, is the defender's advantage here is the knowledge of all of the data of real users and using that data that adversaries don't have to model defenses. And so that's how we stay ahead in the long run. Additionally, like we'll, of course, advance our technology. So those are the two things I think are going to be the present threat and then the future. And then if I think about where there's the biggest opportunity for AI to really strengthen security over the next few years, it's in bringing that true automation. If we think about most security, whether it's a network layer or email or EDR, fundamentally, there's an automated system that throws a flag, kicks it to an analyst, a human, does something, and then kicks it to another human or kicks it back to the system. There's always that human in the loop. There's always this aspect of ticketing and real human labor in the loop. I think we're just not going to keep up. And so I think we need to actually move this from a system that works at the pace of humans to a system that works at the pace of AI. So all of that becomes automated, becomes rapid fire, and just moving the pace through MPC servers and LLMs and agents at the pace of automation and AI. And then the humans are looking in an analytical view over the entire system and kind of managing it. And one way we talk about this is kind of moving from carpentry to gardening. So in carpentry, you build every specific thing. You know exactly what you're doing. You're putting every nail in there by hand. With gardening, you just kind of overlook your garden. You water it every once in a while. Maybe you trim here, maybe you trim there, but you're really letting the plants do their thing. And I think for us, that's really how we view our systems and how we really viewed them at Google is we were gardeners. We weren't there saying, hey, reCAPTCHA across half the websites on the planet, here's exactly what to do. No, we'd let the AI figure it out and we'd create guardrails and we'd kind of like nudge it along and feed and help kind of nurture that growth of the AI. And I think that's really the way as security people, we can design our holistic systems across our entire stack to respond to this incoming wave of AI threats.
Amazing. And now, if you had to leave our listeners with one key takeaway about building resilient AI-first security systems, what would it be?
Yeah, it's hard.
One key takeaway.
I know, one key takeaway. I think just one thing to really think about is starting to, as leaders, flattening out your organization. The one expectation I always have, and look, I've taught the AI courses for a few years now at UCLA, so we talk about this a lot over many years, is the one constant in the AI world is change. So just be ready for and expect change. And the way you can be ready for and expect change is to have a really relatively flat, empowered organization where the priority is people that can act autonomously, understand and react to these new realities, new tools, new technologies, new threats. As we expect there just be continual change over the next 3 to 5 years as this all plays out. So just, the only constant is change. So maybe my advice to the listeners is get ready for change with flatter, more empowered organizations.
Amazing. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Sai, for coming to the show and sharing these valuable insights. That was all for today, and I hope we will see you again in future on an episode of Tesseract Talks. And to our audience, until next episode, stay cyber safe.